First contact gone wrong. The Meridian Empire's first mistake was assuming that humanity's peaceful expansion meant weakness. Their second was acting on that assumption. When the massive Meridian exploration vessel emerged from hyperspace near the Proxima Centauri research station, humanity celebrated. First contact had finally arrived. The station's crew of 300 scientists and researchers prepared for a historic moment, their excitement palpable as they transmitted welcome messages in every known human language. Commander Sarah Chen watched from the station's observation deck as the alien vessel approached, its crystalline structure refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. After 20 years of leading deep space research missions, she would be the first human to speak with an alien civilization. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. The Meridians responded with what appeared to be peaceful gestures. They shared basic mathematical sequences, transmitted simple pictorial communications, and maintained a respectful distance. For 3 days, the exchange continued, with both sides gradually building a rudimentary understanding of each other's communication methods. But the Meridians were not what they seemed. Their vessel was not an exploration ship but a scout, testing humanity's defenses and response patterns. Every transmission they received was analyzed not for its cultural significance, but for military intelligence. Every human gesture of friendship was cataloged as a potential weakness. On the 4th day, without warning, the Meridian vessel opened fire. Their energy weapons sliced through the research station's civilian-grade shields like paper. Commander Chen had just enough time to transmit a single encrypted burst message before the station's reactor went critical. In an instant, 300 of humanity's brightest minds were reduced to atoms, scattered across the cold void of space. The Meridians considered it a necessary test of strength. In their empire spanning thousands of star systems, new species were either immediately subjugated or destroyed. Humanity's response to this test would determine their fate. But they had gravely miscalculated. What the Meridians didn't know, what no alien civilization had discovered, was that humanity had never truly abandoned its warrior past. Behind the facade of peaceful scientific expansion lay a sleeping giant. Every human colony, every research station, every seemingly innocent cargo ship carried within it the seeds of war. The destruction of Proxima Station triggered something that had been prepared for, but never activated: the Lazarus Protocol. As Commander Chen's final transmission reached Earth, automated systems began to wake. Deep within the moon's surface, massive fabrication facilities hummed to life. In the asteroid belt, hidden shipyards shed their camouflage. Beneath the ice of Europa, antimatter weapons that had laid dormant for decades powered up their containment fields. Admiral James Donovan stood in the Strategic Command Center beneath Mount Cheyenne as reports flooded in. The Lazarus Protocol was performing exactly as designed. Decades of preparation, trillions in secret funding, and the combined efforts of every major nation on Earth were about to bear fruit. "Send the activation codes," he ordered, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "All units, this is not a drill. Protocol Lazarus is now active." Across every human settlement, colony, and outpost, hidden compartments opened. Civilian ships transformed, revealing weapon systems that had been disguised as cargo holds. Research stations unveiled defense grids that had been masquerading as scientific equipment. Every human adult accessed training that had been implanted through years of routine medical procedures. The Meridians expected humanity to respond with fear, with diplomatic pleas, or perhaps with a few dozen hastily armed vessels. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Because humanity had never forgotten its violent past, they had simply learned to hide it better. They had spent centuries preparing for this moment, building their strength in secret while presenting a peaceful face to the cosmos. The Meridians hadn't discovered a primitive species ripe for conquest. They had awakened a sleeping giant, and as the first wave of human warships began to emerge from their hidden bases, the galaxy was about to learn why every human child still learned the ancient saying, "Si vis pacem, para bellum." If you want peace, prepare for war. The silent preparation. For 3 generations, humanity had maintained what appeared to be a modest presence in space. A few dozen colonies, some research stations, and a handful of mining operations. Nothing that would alarm a spacefaring civilization. But beneath this carefully crafted facade lay an infrastructure of war that would have stunned even the most paranoid military strategist. Project Director Dr. Maya Patel stood in the central chamber of Luna Base Alpha, watching as massive blast doors opened for the first time in 50 years. The chamber, officially listed as a geological research facility, stretched for kilometers beneath the lunar surface. Row upon row of advanced warships stood ready, their hulls gleaming under emergency lights. "Status report," she commanded, her voice echoing through the cavernous space. "All systems operational." Director, her AI assistant, responded. "The Phantom Fleet is ready for deployment. Current count stands at 50,000 vessels, fully crewed and armed." The Phantom Fleet was just one piece of humanity's hidden arsenal. Similar facilities existed throughout the solar system, each disguised as something innocuous. Mining operations in the asteroid belt concealed mobile shipyards. Research stations studying Jupiter's moons housed antimatter production facilities. Even Mars terraforming projects doubled as weapons development centers. But the true genius of humanity's preparation lay not in its scale, but in its subtlety. Every human colony ship that had left Earth carried within it the seeds of military infrastructure. Every civilian habitat contained hidden military-grade shield generators and weapon systems. Every human settler had received military training disguised as emergency preparedness courses. The funding for this massive undertaking had been hidden in plain sight. Cost overruns on civilian projects, inflated research budgets, and seemingly inefficient construction methods all funneled resources into the secret war machine. Even Earth's nations, which still maintained their separate identities, had united in this singular purpose. Dr. Patel opened a secure channel to Admiral Donovan. "The Phantom Fleet is ready, sir. Awaiting your command." "Excellent," Donovan replied. "Begin deployment sequence." And Maya, they took the bait. The bait was a carefully crafted trail of intelligence that suggested humanity was scrambling to mount a defensive response. Meridian surveillance systems detected increased activity around Earth, watching as humanity appeared to hastily arm civilian vessels and recall colonial ships. What they couldn't detect were the quantum-shifted facilities coming online throughout human space, or the thousands of ships emerging from dimensional pockets where they had waited for decades. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't its hidden fleets or advanced technology. It was its ability to deceive. In the Orc cloud, automated defense platforms began to power up. In the Kuiper Belt, stealth monitoring stations tracked Meridian fleet movements. And in every human settlement, citizens calmly began to implement protocols they had rehearsed their entire lives. The Meridians, watching from their staging areas, saw exactly what humanity wanted them to see: a primitive species struggling to mount a defense. They prepared for a simple subjugation action, confident in their superiority. They had no idea they were walking into one of the most elaborate traps in military history. Operation Shattered Stars. The Meridian Empire's invasion fleet arrived with devastating precision. 5,000 warships, each carrying enough firepower to level a continent, emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Their target, Earth's solar system, humanity's cradle and apparent stronghold. Admiral Kira Voss of the Meridian First Strike Fleet allowed herself a moment of satisfaction as her ships moved into attack position. Intelligence suggested the humans had managed to cobble together perhaps a few hundred defensive vessels. This would be over quickly. "My Lord Admiral," her tactical officer called out, "we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the inner system." Before she could respond, space itself seemed to tear apart. Quantum ruptures appeared simultaneously at precise coordinates throughout the solar system. From these dimensional breaches emerged humanity's true fleet, not the few hundred ships the Meridians had detected, but tens of thousands of vessels of previously unknown design. The human ships weren't the crude, retrofitted civilian vessels the Meridians had expected. They were purpose-built warships, their hulls incorporating technologies the Meridians had thought impossible for primitive humans to possess. Admiral Donovan's voice echoed across all frequencies, transmitted in perfect Meridian language. "You should have listened to Commander Chen's final warning. We are not what we seem. Now you'll understand why." The human fleet moved with impossible coordination. Their ships didn't just communicate. They operated as a single organism, guided by quantum-entangled AI systems that had been perfected in secret over decades. Each vessel knew exactly where every other ship would be at any given moment, executing maneuvers that seemed to defy physics itself. The Meridians' first volley of plasma torpedoes passed harmlessly through apparent human ships, hitting nothing but holographic duplicates. Their second volley was absorbed by shields operating on principles their sensors couldn't even detect. The third never launched, as human vessels suddenly appeared inside their minimum firing range, having used short-range dimensional jumps that the Meridians had thought theoretically impossible. "Fall back," Admiral Voss ordered, but it was too late. Human ships had already surrounded her fleet, using formation tactics that seemed random at first, but soon revealed themselves to be precisely calculated to disrupt Meridian combat doctrine. The human weapons were unlike anything in known space. Instead of conventional energy beams or projectiles, they fired gravitational distortion pulses that bypassed shields entirely. Some ships deployed swarms of quantum-linked drones that could predict and counter Meridian evasive maneuvers before they even began. Others used temporal distortion fields to trap Meridian ships in microsecond time loops, effectively removing them from the battle without destroying them. But the most terrifying aspect wasn't the technology, it was the precision. Every human attack targeted non-critical systems, disabled weapons, and neutralized threats with surgical accuracy. They weren't just winning, they were demonstrating an overwhelming superiority while deliberately minimizing casualties. As her flagship systems failed one by one, Admiral Voss realized the horrible truth. The humans hadn't just prepared for war, they had specifically prepared for war with the Meridians. Every tactic, every weapon, every strategy was precisely engineered to counter Meridian military doctrine. Somehow, they had studied and analyzed their future opponents for decades without detection. "Send the surrender signal," she ordered, her voice barely a whisper. But the humans weren't finished. As the Meridian fleet stood down, new quantum ruptures appeared near every major Meridian world. The human fleet hadn't just been defending Earth, they had been precisely positioned to launch a simultaneous counterattack across the entire empire. Operation Shattered Stars wasn't just a defense of Earth. It was the beginning of a campaign that would reshape the galaxy forever. The price of pride. The Meridian Empire's Central Council convened in an emergency session, their crystalline chamber reflecting the chaos of their shattered military might. High Chancellor Vexthor, leader of the Empire for 3 centuries, faced the harsh reality displayed on the tactical screens. Over 90% of their fleet disabled or captured. Defensive systems across thousands of worlds neutralized, and trade routes effectively under human control. But the humans hadn't fired a single fatal shot since the initial surrender. "They're toying with us," growled General Kasvar, his crystalline form pulsing with anger. "Why don't they finish what they started?" The answer came in the form of a transmission, broadcast simultaneously to every Meridian world. The holographic figure of Dr. Maya Patel appeared before the council, her expression neither triumphant nor hostile, merely patient. "Your empire is built on a foundation of fear," she began. "You believe strength comes from domination. We're here to show you a better way." What followed wasn't an ultimatum, but a revelation. The humans began broadcasting proof of how thoroughly they had infiltrated Meridian society over the decades. Seemingly primitive human trading vessels had mapped every Meridian military installation. Tourist exchanges had gathered detailed cultural and psychological data. Even the Empire's most secure databases had been comprehensively analyzed by quantum AI systems disguised as routine system upgrades. But more devastating than the military defeat was the psychological one. Humanity revealed how they had secretly aided oppressed species within the Empire, building an underground network of allies. They had studied Meridian history, identifying colonies that chafed under imperial rule, and had prepared specific liberation strategies for each one. Your own citizens are ready for change. Dr. Patel continued. We didn't just prepare to defeat your military. We prepared to dismantle the very ideology that drives your empire. Throughout Meridian space, carefully planned uprisings began. Not violent rebellions, but organized peaceful protests. Colonial governments declared independence, backed by human guarantees of protection. Trade guilds announced embargoes against imperial loyalists. The entire social structure of the empire began to unravel. Admiral Voss, now under house arrest on her own flagship, watched in amazement as human ships provided humanitarian aid to Meridian colonies, while simultaneously maintaining an impenetrable military blockade. They demonstrated not just overwhelming force, but an understanding of Meridian society that went beyond mere intelligence gathering. You never understood what makes humanity different, did you? Asked Captain Sarah Chen, daughter of the commander who died at Proxima Station, as she visited Voss in her quarters. You saw our diversity as weakness, our apparent lack of unity as vulnerability. You never realize that our greatest strength lies in our ability to understand and adapt to different perspectives. The humans had turned the Empire's own psychology against it. They knew that a purely military victory would only breed resentment and future conflict. Instead, they systematically dismantled the cultural and social structures that had made the Empire aggressive in the first place. Trade routes were reopened, but under new rules that encouraged cooperation rather than exploitation. Colonial governments were offered independence with human protection or partnership with Earth on equal terms. Even the Meridian military was given a choice: maintain a defensive force under human supervision, or join a new multi-species peacekeeping fleet. The empire that had stood for 10,000 years was being transformed not through destruction, but through something far more powerful: the opportunity for change. High Chancellor Vex Thor, watching his life's work dissolve around him, finally understood humanity's true power. They hadn't just outsmarted or outfought the Meridians. They had outfought them on every level, turning an inevitable conflict into an opportunity for genuine transformation. As riots broke out in the imperial capital and colonial governments declared their independence one by one, the Central Council faced a choice: adapt or fade into obsolescence. The price of their pride would be the end of the empire as they knew it. But perhaps, some whispered, that wasn't such a terrible price to pay. A new dawn. 1 year after the surrender of the Meridian Empire, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Great Hall of the newly established Galactic Concordat on Mars hosted representatives from 100 species, former Meridian subjects, independent worlds, and human colonies, all gathered to witness something unprecedented. Admiral Donovan stood at the podium, his dress uniform gleaming under the artificial lights. Beside him stood Admiral Voss, no longer a prisoner but a partner in what many had started calling the Great Transformation. A year ago, Donovan began, we demonstrated that humanity had the power to destroy an empire. Today we demonstrate something far more important: the power to build a future. The Galactic Concordat wasn't just a peace treaty or a trade agreement. It was a new way of organizing civilizations, based on principles that humanity had learned through its own bloody history. Every member world maintained its independence while contributing to mutual defense and prosperity. Cultural differences were celebrated rather than suppressed. Technology was shared, but with safeguards against misuse. Dr. Patel, now heading the Concordat Scientific Exchange Program, had worked closely with Meridian scientists to combine their crystalline technology with human quantum systems. The results had already produced breakthroughs in medicine, energy production, and space travel. We spent centuries preparing for war, she told the assembly. But what we really prepared for was this moment, the opportunity to turn conflict into cooperation. The former empire's territories had been reorganized into autonomous regions, each free to develop its own form of government while adhering to basic principles of sapient rights and mutual cooperation. The massive human fleet that had brought the empire to its knees now served as a peacekeeping force, jointly commanded by officers from all member species. Captain Sarah Chen, promoted to lead the Concordat's First Contact Division, had implemented new protocols based on humanity's long experience with cultural integration. "We remember what brought us here," she said during the ceremony, "but we choose to focus on where we're going." The great secret of humanity's success wasn't just their hidden military might or their advanced technology. It was their unique ability to learn from history without being bound by it. They had prepared for war precisely because they wanted peace, developed overwhelming force specifically so they wouldn't have to use it destructively. High Chancellor Vex Thor, now serving as one of the Concordat's senior advisors, had perhaps the most surprising perspective. "We thought we were testing humanity's strength," he told the assembly. "Instead, they tested our capacity for growth. They proved that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to transform." The human response to the Proxima Station attack had transformed not just the Meridian Empire, but humanity itself. They had emerged from behind their carefully constructed facade, not as conquerors, but as architects of a new galactic order. Across human space, the hidden shipyards and weapon facilities were being converted to serve peaceful purposes. The quantum technologies developed for war found new applications in medicine and exploration. The vast networks created for military coordination now facilitated trade and cultural exchange. As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Donovan and Admiral Voss together activated a quantum beacon that would broadcast the Concordat's principles across the galaxy. It carried a simple message: we are stronger together. The destruction of Proxima Station had indeed changed everything, but not in the way anyone had expected. It had sparked not just a demonstration of human military might, but a revolution in how civilizations could interact. The sleeping giant had awakened not to destroy, but to build. And as representatives from 100 worlds signed the Concordat Charter, the truth became clear. Humanity's greatest weapon had never been their hidden fleets or advanced technology. It had been their capacity to imagine and create a better way forward. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter that day, witnessing the dawn of a new era in galactic history. An era born not from the ashes of destruction, but from the triumph of transformation. The story of humanity's response to aggression would be told for generations across countless worlds, not as a tale of vengeance, but as proof that even the darkest moments could lead to the brightest futures.